Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the first part of the training called Saying Yes to God's Invitations. I am Dima Cohen, and I am so thankful that you took time to join me as we are beginning to explore how can we take moms and dads, boys and girls in our church and energize them and get them excited about recognizing God's dreams and purposes for their lives and boldly step into the story that God has tailor-made just for them. Before we begin our training, I want to let you know that there is a training guide or training notes, and you can download them and a bunch of extra goodies that I put for you in the post that's pinned at the very top in Families on a Mission Facebook group. There is a download link. You click on it, you go to Dropbox, you download a zipped archive, you decompress it, and you'll have several PDFs and one JPEG. A lot of the things that we cover here just for your review, but also to give you tools to start sharing with your leadership, with your ministry peers, and perhaps even the families in your church. So you can just go later and check that link out and download and print your notes, and hopefully they will bring to mind some of the things that we will be covering today. So, saying yes to God's invitations. This phrase has two important parts. Number one, we have God, the maker of heaven and earth. I'm not sure how you imagine God. Maybe your picture of him is he is sitting in heaven on his throne, half bored, listening to the angel, yawning as he watches planets in motion. I'm not sure if this is your image of God, but when I think about God, I imagine a person who doesn't have a boring or dull moment in his life. His mind is constantly coming up with bright, fabulous ideas, plans, and dreams that only he can accomplish. He is just looking down on earth, and he's just thinking of bringing his kingdom and his joy and peace into the lives of sons and daughters that he loves so, so much. On the other hand, we have us. We have people who know God, who walk with God, and who are invited into an amazing partnership with God. But it's up to us to discern what his agenda is. What is it on his to-do list? And it's up to us to say, yes, God, I'm going to be a part of your amazing adventure. I'm going to be that link between heaven and earth. I will be that delivery guy who is going to take the package and is going to take it to the right door and deliver peace and comfort and encouragement and forgiveness and truth and love to the person whose address you put on the package. It's just like pizza. We make a phone call, and several minutes later a guy rings our doorbell and there is our pizza. And God has this storehouse of blessings, of life that is abundant, of beauty that he wants to give for ashes. But he needs people who will pause long enough to discern what is it on God's mind, and would say, yes, God, I want to be part of delivering this miracle into such and such person's life. It's exactly like Jesus taught us to pray, let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So the purpose of this training is to find creative and effective ways to mobilize families in our churches who will say yes to God's invitations and who will partner with him in delivering something amazing to their neighborhoods. So before we dive into our training, I want to ask you, what is your dream number? How many families in your church would you like to see say yes to God's invitations this summer? When their schedule is more relaxed, there is no school, maybe there is no sports, there is no extracurricular involvement, and this family says, God, what's on your mind? We want to join you. And there you watch them step out of their comfort zone, step out in faith, mom, dad, children, making a difference right where God planted them. So, what is your number? How many families would you like to see right in your church say yes to God's invitations this summer? I think the number is important. There is nothing magical about it, but at least it will give you something to aim for, something to work towards, and something to pray for. My number is 10. I'd love to see 10 families in my church this summer discern what is it that God is doing around them and say, you know what? We are going to partner with God. We are going to say yes. We are going on a mission right in our neighborhood. So that's what this training is all about, mobilizing families in our churches to link themselves to God's agenda, to God's rhythm, to His heartbeat, and become His delivery agents so that they can bring His blessings to the people that God loves so much. It all sounds exciting, doesn't it? But we do have a problem. And this problem was discovered by George Barna. Probably many of you have heard this name, good old George Barna, the guy who organizes researches and just studies people, their habits, their beliefs. And so in 2003, he did a study on the spiritual climate in Christian homes and how parents respond to their role of being primary faith shapers in their children's lives. And this is the conclusion that he has reached. And you will find this direct quote in your notes that you can download, and you will also find the link. You can just click and go straight to George Barna's website and read these results for yourselves. But here is just a paragraph. This is what he said. Parents typically have no plan for the spiritual development of their children. They do not consider it a priority, so there is no value placed on the spiritual development of their children. They have little or no training in how to nurture a child's faith. So there, no training. Have no related standards or goals that they are seeking to satisfy. So no standards or goals. In other words, spiritual formation of their children is a very abstract and vague concept. They don't know how to accomplish it. They don't know how to measure it. They don't even know how to know if they're successful in it. And many of them feel, if I bring my kids to church at least twice a month, maybe I'm doing it right. And finally, he said, they experience no accountability for their efforts. By the way, this research was conducted in 2003, but it seems like it was just done yesterday, because if you look on the state of families, Christian families in our countries, this paragraph and these words still ring true. Parents have no plan for discipling their children. Somebody said that an average family spends more time, effort, and puts more energy into planning their summer vacation than into planning the discipleship process of their children. And I think they're right. I don't think it's an exaggeration. So they have no plan. They actually don't even value the spiritual upbringing of their children. I think they hope it will just happen. Their attitude towards discipleship of their children is very haphazard. They have no training, so they feel very underqualified and inadequate. And so they look up to church, to us. You are the professionals. Please help me. Do something for me because I have no idea where even to start. So they have no confidence, no training, no standards or goals. So to them it's vague, it's abstract, they don't know how to go about it and how to measure their success. And then there is no accountability, there is no environment where they are encouraged, where they are equipped, and where somebody is checking in on them and saying, hey, how are you doing? And holding them up to a standard. So the primary goal for this training and for this session and for the following ones is really to scratch out all of this no. We want to give parents a plan, something that is easy to implement, that they can see fruit of almost immediately. We want to help them see value in spiritual investment into their children. We want to provide them with training, nothing elaborate, nothing overwhelming, but practical training that they can implement, making faith a part of their daily life. We also want to give them some markers, some standards and goals, almost like those vital signs. You know, when you go to the doctor and they take your blood pressure, they take your weight and your height. So there are signs that doctors are looking at to see if a child is developing in the right way or not, or if there are any concerns. So we want to give parents some of those markers, like these are the markers of growth. This is what you can be aiming for at different stages of your child's life to help them become more like Jesus, to think, to act, and to live like Jesus. And finally, we want to provide them with a network, the support network where they will find encouragement, education, equipping aspect, but also where they will be held accountable, where they will know, you know what? People will be asking me how I'm doing. So that's what we are after with this training. So if we want to help families, if we want to move them from where they are now to where God wants them to be, to where they are ready to say, yes, God, we are with you. What would you like us to do? First, we need to find out where are the families in our churches. So I would like to suggest that there are 4 dynamics, or there are 4 patterns where families in our churches find themselves. And the first one I call a scattered family. Scattered family. I'm not sure if it's 2 T's or 2 R's. Please excuse me, English is my second language. Hopefully I got it right. So scattered family, it seems like it's a typical American family, and they're all about go, 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 busy, busy, busy. We cannot just be relaxed. Our children are going to miss out on all the amazing opportunities, so they need to be involved in so many different things. And so this family, if you can see here on this graph, they're just being pulled apart. Mom is doing her thing, dad is doing his thing. Here is little Betty, here is little Billy, and they're just missing each other out. They are, each one of them is their own universe. They have their own agendas, they have their own lives, and as you can see, they almost do not intersect. They just go from place to place, from task to task, and you can easily see they are not in a position to even hear God or know what is it that heaven wants to do in us and through us. They're so busy, they're in a survival mode, they're overscheduled, they're overwhelmed, they're overworked, they're stressed, they're hectic, they're haphazard. And if this is the majority of the families in your church, you have a hard time ministering to them. I think as a children's pastor, you probably gave up on these parents and you think, just bring your kids to church on Sunday and we will take care of their faith formation. Wrong. It's an easy way, but not good long term. So we want to move them to a different dynamic, to a different pattern. So you might find some churches in your families, some families in your church function in the next pattern, and this is called centered. So obviously they still have their own unique responsibilities, they still do things, they still go places, they're still involved in different activities, but yet there is something in the middle that brings them together, something that holds them together, something that causes them to regularly face each other and be involved in each other's lives. This family has an identity, this family has a sense of togetherness, and I would like to suggest that this force in the middle, this circle that brings them together is, are you ready? It's nothing spiritual, but it's very powerful. It's the dinner table. It's a family that found a way to gather regularly around the dinner table to nourish their bodies, to connect with each other on a deeper level, to encourage one another, to pray for one another, and they are valuing being on the same page. And this is a great place to be at. If you think that this is not so important, the dinner table, it is. Try to implement regular dinner table in your life and you will find out what a daunting task it is. For a family to have 3 or 4 dinners together, they would need to disassemble their whole life, they would need to evaluate all their priorities, and they will have to restructure themselves. It would be a big task. So the families that eat together, we need to celebrate them and we need to rejoice with them because they are coming to that place of stillness. Remember the Bible verse? Be still and know that I am God. But knowing comes after being still. So it's great if we can help families to meet regularly around the table. And I would recommend and suggest that maybe one of the most important things that you as a church ministry leader can do is actually encourage and equip and educate families in your church to gather around the dinner table more often. All right, but we don't want to leave families in this model because even though gathering around the dinner table is great, it's easy to become inward looking. It's easy to become like an ingrown toenail, like it's us against the world. We are just all that we have and we are all that we need. And this is a good place to start, but not a good place to remain. This is not your arrival. This is not your destination, okay? So let's go to the next pattern. And I'm sure each church, including yours, has all these patterns working in your church all at the same time. It's just very important for you and me to discern how many families, what percentage is in each of these categories. So the third pattern, and this is where we would like to gradually move our families. I call it synced up. Synced up. And this is a technical term. If you have any Bluetooth devices at home, you would know that before they can function properly, they need to be paired. If it's a Bluetooth speaker or Bluetooth headphones, your iPad or your smartphone, you need to pair them up. They need to find each other. They need to exchange signals and they need to be paired up. And that's the picture that God, right here, this green circle, it's no longer a dinner table. It's now God and His dreams and His passions and His purposes. So He is that, sort of to speak, device that's sending a signal that this is what I want to accomplish. This is my will. This is my heart's desire. Is there anyone listening? Is there anyone willing to say yes and take the package and deliver it to such and such an address, because people there desperately need hope, or they desperately need Jesus. They desperately need someone to come alongside of them and encourage them. So here we have this family, Dad, Mom, Billy and Betty. They are synced up. So not only are they gathering around the table and they're facing each other, they're also finding time to face up. They are heaven focused, and they're saying, God, what is it on your mind? What is it on your heart? And you know what? God cannot wait to reveal His purposes and dreams. Do you remember the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, where Isaiah got a sneak peek into the heavens? It's just like the veil got opened just a little bit, and he overheard the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit talking, conversing among each other, and they're saying, who will go for us? Who shall we send? So they clearly had a plan, they clearly had a mission that they wanted to see accomplished on earth. But now among the three of them, they were discussing, who shall go for us? Who are we going to send? And Isaiah linked up, he was synced up to heaven's agenda. And what did he do? He said, here am I, send me. And this is what we want for our families, to be still enough to hear heaven's voice, to train them in picking up those signals that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are sending down, so that they can partner with God in accomplishing His will in the lives of people that God sends in their path. So this is where we want our people to be, but it's not good enough yet. Because remember, Jonah was in this place. God clearly communicated to him, I want you to go to Nineveh. God said, this is what on heaven's to-do list. Go to Nineveh, preach to them, warn them about God's coming judgment. So Jonah was synced up. He knew exactly what heaven wanted him to do, but he did not say yes to God's invitation. He said no and turned his back and ran away. So we want our families to be synced up, but then we want them to move to the final pattern, the final dynamic. And this is where they say yes. And I call this send out. So this is where we eventually would like to move the families in our church, so that they are still enough to face each other and form their identity as a family, that they're still long enough to be synced up to heaven and know what is it on God's heart for them, what is it that He is doing around them, and they're being invited to join Him on a mission. But then finally they're saying yes, and they're living as God's sent out delivery agents. So again, I want to ask you, what is your number? How many families in your church this summer, starting this June, would you like to see functioning in this pattern, functioning as sent out ones, and then bursting with excitement because they have seen God use them? And that would be an unforgettable experience, and their joy would spill over. And hopefully next summer, the number of families functioning like this will double, because their example will be fascinating and inspiring. So what is your number? All right, we covered 4 patterns, and every church, you have families that are right now find themselves living in one of these patterns. And as a church leader, your job and my job is to discern, okay, where are most of our families and what is the most effective way to help them move to the next base. We don't want to overwhelm them with complicated strategies and structures. No, we just want them to take the next step that will move them closer to this ultimate goal of being sent out. So by now you might be answering, how do I find out where my families are? And this is the practical part right now. The best way is to talk to each of the families and ask them, so how are you guys doing? Where are you? Are you scattered? Are you centered? Are you synced up? Or are you sent out? And of course, if you're in a small church of 10 families, you can do it. You can just go to each family and talk to them. But if you're in a larger church like myself, with 1,200 people, you cannot talk to them in person. But maybe you can. Here comes SurveyMonkey. And this is what I did, and I want to encourage you to do, because the results that I have received were shockingly amazing and revealing. I encourage you to send out a 4-question survey, and the 4-question survey is in the notes right here that I mentioned below. You can download it, you can copy, paste, and make your own survey and send it out to people. But I sent out a 4-question survey, and my question number 1 was, how important is family dinner time to you? All right, I started with the dinner time because to me dinner time stands for structure and stands for priority. Like, this family has recognized that for us to live like a family, we need to come together. We need something that will glue us and hold us together, and that glue is dinner time. So that's where I wanted to start, just to see how many of them are on the centered base. So I asked them, how important is family dinner time to you? And I gave them 5 options. It's very important when you send out a survey, you want to give people options, because, let's be honest, people are lazy. And I'm talking about myself as well. It takes a lot of work to think and formulate answers. So if you can pre-formulate answers and give them to people, so all they need to do is click, very important, or click, slightly important. The chances and probability of you getting the responses back are so much higher than if you just left a blank space. So I sent out, and here is an interesting trick. You want to keep track of the number of emails that you sent. So I sent out 346 emails. So 346 people have theoretically received my email, where I asked them to take 60 seconds. That's exactly how long it takes to answer my survey. Take 60 seconds to fill out the survey. I have received back, now it's been 10 days since I sent that survey, I received back 85 responses. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed. Come on, I sent 346 emails and I heard back only from 85 people. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, I sent out 346 emails, but most of them went to households. So a husband got one and a wife got one. So in reality, I sent emails to 173 households. All right, now it's becoming a little bit more interesting. And I heard back from 85 households, where normally a wife is in charge of the dinner and she would be prone to fill out a survey. and husband probably doesn't even need to answer because his answer would be identical to his wife's answer. So suddenly, when I started thinking about it like that, my 85 responses became 170 responses. That is 170 households, assuming that a wife or a husband who answered also represented their spouse. So after I lined up these numbers together, I felt very good. I thought, man, I got almost a 100% reading on the families in my church. So it's amazing. 10 days, 85 responses. It's as if I walked into each one of those families and sat down in their living room and chatted to them. It took me 10 minutes to create the survey, sent it out, and then took me a little bit time to analyze it, but how convenient, right? And now I have a beautiful picture, a very clear and realistic picture of where the families in my church are. So let me share with you the responses, because they have shocked me. They exceeded my expectations, and that is one of the advantages of doing a survey, one of the benefits. If you have any assumptions, if you have any ideas that are not rooted in reality, survey results will bring you down to earth. In my case, I expected less from the families, and what I received from them was so encouraging and so amazing. So, first question, how important is family dinner time to you? 63 families, 63, which is 74%, said it's very important to them. Amazing, right? Then 13 people out of 85, remember, which is 15%, said it's fairly important. Yay, we're still in a very good spot, right? And then 7 people, which is 8%, said it is important. So if you add it up together, you'll see that a big amount of people, over 90% in our church, they value dinner time. And that was eye-opening, and that was encouraging. Now I know that maybe, just maybe, they're not scattered, but they are centered. So, we go to the next question. Question number 2. How often does your family sit down at the dinner table together? Now, this is where the rubber meets the road, because you can tell me that the dinner time is very important to you or extremely important, but show me the proof. And you know what? They showed me an amazing proof. So 5 times or more a week, 60 families. I was blown away. They sit together around the dinner table 5 times a week or even more. 3 or 4 times a week, 18 families. At least once a week, I missed 2-3 times a week. There was 2-3 times a week. 2-3. It was 5 families. So again, if you add this all up, we find 90% of all the families in my church that have children in children's ministry, they value dinner time, not just in word, but in deed. And it's been a revelation to me, and it's been a good news to me. Third question was also very powerful and revealing. What do you find to be the greatest challenge when it comes to regularly sitting down to eat together as a family? And this question got the most choices. I put there, we are just so busy, tried it, failed at it, won't do it again, it's too much work, we aren't all home at dinner time, my kids are too picky, we don't even own a dining table. I also put this one for a joke, but actually somebody responded, my husband's chewing drives me insane. That's what one person said her challenge is with the dinner table. So I gave them a lot of choices, but I also put other, because I knew very well that I cannot give them all choices that apply to them. And this other was very important because 18 people, 18 gave me something different. And so this is what I found out from the families. We aren't all at home, 35. So that's what they find most challenging. They're not all at home at the same time to sit down for dinner. And the second largest challenge was we are just so busy. And that's 17. And that's important. Now I know, okay, if I want to come alongside of families, if I want to offer them encouragement, if I want to offer them insight, these are two areas that I would be targeting. One thing you want to look at when you analyze answers is how many people skipped answering the answer. So in this case, 4 people skipped answering the answer, and I can tell you why. Because it did not apply to them. Dinner time is not a challenge to them. It's in their blood, it's in their DNA, it's just a part of their day, a natural part, just as breathing is. So it was good to see 4 people skipped it, so it did not apply to them at all. But as I told you, other was very important and very revealing, because that's where they gave me some things that I did not think about, but also most of the people out of this 18 just kept saying the same thing. It's not difficult for us at all. It's become very routine and natural. It's not a challenge. We get it done. No problem. We always eat dinner together. So that was very helpful. So it just reinforced that dinners are very important to these people. Yet some of the insight that they offered was very helpful. Somebody said noise level of 5 boisterous children, or colliding sports schedules with multiple kids requiring drive in multiple places at the same time. My kids are not school age yet, and so this insight is very helpful to me because it gives me compassion. It gives me greater understanding of families. So I'm not going to come with all the answers. I will come with a humble attitude and I'll say, okay, let's meet with some older couples who have been in your shoes. Let's see if we can learn from them. So that was question number 3. And last question. Oh, actually, it's not even here. I did not put it here. But last question was, let's see, if you have any additional comments, questions, suggestions, ideas, experiences on the topic of family dinner time, please let me know. And I have received an overwhelming response to this question. Honestly, I did not expect to receive much. In the past, whenever I would say a survey and I would put in at the end, if you have any extra thoughts or observations or questions, let me know. Almost 0 response. In this case, a lot of response, and all very encouraging and very helpful. I'm not going to read everything to you, but parents just wanted to share their heart. So somebody said, we have always made dinner together a priority. So we have tried to limit our kids' involvement in activities as well as our own so that we have margin to do this. Somebody wrote, we love family dinner time and accomplish it almost 7 nights a week. Sometimes on the weekend we feed our son at regular dinner time, but still sit with him at the table. Then mommy, daddy get takeout after he goes to bed and watch a movie. So just lots and lots of positive feedback, which shows families in our church are in a very good spot. They're already centered. They're eating dinner together. It's a priority to them. Somebody wrote, would love some practical and easy to implement ideas on being intentional at the dinner table. Wow, thank you. It now defines my next step. So probably there are a few other people that, okay, we are sitting at the table, we are eating, but how can we enrich this experience? All right, let's start thinking, let's start praying, let's start dreaming how we as a church can answer that question and give parents tools. And listen what they said, some practical and easy to implement ideas. And guess what? That's exactly what I'm working on right now. Practical and easy to implement ideas. In my next video, I will share it with you. I'll show it to you. I'll post a download link. I'm working on a family challenge called What's for Supper? Operation 20 Meals in 40 Days. And it's going to be a contest between the families in our church. It's going to be fun. It's going to be competitive. There will be prizes. But it will be a guide where they can track their progress that will give them fun ways how they can enrich their dinner time. And I think it will be a great success. So as you can see, this survey really helped me to see what are we doing well as families and where are some pain points that need to be addressed. So I don't want to overwhelm you. I do want to give you an assignment. Download your training notes, create your survey, send it out to your families, keep track of all those important numbers, how many email addresses you send it out to, how many surveys you received in 10 days. Give it only 10 days. And then analyze your responses and see where your families are among these 4 patterns so that you know how best to serve them and what should be the next step in this progression from scattered to centered to synced up to being sent out. Be sure to share with us your progress, your discoveries, your questions. Families on a Mission group has been designed for that. We want to see practical results. We want to be here for each other. Very little theory and a lot of hands-on stuff that you can put to work immediately and see results. And here is one more, a very important step. After you analyze it, form a wise counsel. When you see the results, these results that I shared with you, after I saw them, I got excited. My wheels started turning. Okay, so the next step will be to create What's for Dinner, a 40-day challenge, a contest that we can host in our church. But I thought, you know what? I need a feedback. Maybe it's just a good idea, but the wrong time. Maybe there is a better idea. So I sent out an email to our discipleship pastor who oversees men and small groups in our church and soul care and marriages and counseling. I sent an email to our women's ministry leader, and also email to our minister of mobilization, minister of missions. And I said, hey guys, I did this survey. I got some great results. I have some ideas that I'm just bursting to share with you. And I really need you to be my sounding board. I really need a few minutes of your time. If 4 of us could sit together, we'll analyze the results. And I just want you to be on board. And this is the beauty of ministry. Just because you are a children's ministry pastor doesn't mean that you have to function alone. This survey, the data that you will dig out, should build bridges to other ministries where you intersect so that you can be a unified front. So again, all the notes, all the suggestions, all the next steps are in your notes. I hope that you will download them. I hope that you will work through them. And I am looking forward to hearing back from you. So my next step is on February 25, I am hosting a forum for parents. I call it Donuts with Dima. I figure if they don't show for the Dima part, at least they will show up for the donuts part. I'm going to invite the parents. I'm going to say, hey, remember that survey? It shocked me in the most wonderful way. Can we just get together for an hour and talk about it and see what God might be doing among us? And so that's where I will want to introduce them to 4 patterns, ask them to just see and admit where they're at, and also learn from each other. Give them a chance to learn from peers, share stories about how they go about being centered and gathering around the dinner table, and then give them a challenge, a 40-day challenge. And that's just one step. I don't want to give them the whole program that I want them to get you to being synced up and then sent out. No. We're just taking one step at a time. Remember, families need a plan that's easy to implement, that's not overwhelming. And so that's my next step. Your next step, my friend, is if you do not have a SurveyMonkey account yet, start it. It's free. Create your survey, send it out to all the parents, gather the answers, analyze them, then form a wise council. Invite people to come alongside of you and help you look at it and offer their feedback, their input, their perspective, and then create an action plan. Okay, so in the light of this data that we have received, what is the next step? And please, please, please share with us your journey, your discoveries, your questions in the Families on a Mission group, so we can rejoice with you, so we can encourage you, and so that we can compare notes. I'd love to see what answers you have in your state, in your church, in your county. So let's just see the bigger picture of what God might be doing in our churches, so what challenges our churches are facing. So I hope that you are excited and that you are with me. And just keep remembering that number that you have in your mind. How many families would you like to see saying yes to God's invitations this summer? Because that's exactly where we are heading. I'm looking forward to talking to you again through the video and through our Facebook group. So until then, God bless you, roll up your sleeves and go to work.